All right, so we had just done A, and we determined that the addition problem, finding the sum of 96.18 plus 209.211 is greater than the product of 6 and 7/10 and 25 thousandths. So now I told you have to show your work for B and C. So let's start solving these so we can get our answers for these problems. So we have 107. We have to find the difference. 0.23. We have to subtract 67, and we line it up based off place values. So the 6 was in the tens, the 7 was in the ones, our decimal point. 3 is in the tens place, and then a 2 was in the hundredths place. So now we have to subtract. Before we start subtracting, drop that decimal point down, dropping it down. 3 minus 2 is 1. 2 minus 3 we can't do, so that 7 becomes a 6. The 2 becomes a 12. And then we do 12 minus 3, which is 9. 6 minus 7 we can't do, so we take from the 0. Well, we can't take from the 0, so the 1 becomes a 0. The 0 becomes a 9 because it became a 10. Then we took away from it to make the 6 a 16. 16 minus 7 is 9. Remember that decimal point up. And then 9 minus 6 is 3. So we would go back to the problem, and we can put it up here, but it has to go back on the original fluency page. So we had 39.91. 39 or 39 and 91 hundredths. So now we have to find the product of 321 and 45 thousandths and 19. So we write it out as if there is no decimal points. 3, 2, 1, 4, 5. And we times it by 19. So the 1 is underneath the 4, the 9 is underneath the 5, and we have to now multiply. We do 9 times 5, which is 45. The 5 goes down, the 4 goes up high. And then we do 9 times 4, which is 36. 36 plus 4 is 40. So we put our 0, and then we put the 4 up. Then we do 9 times 1 is 9. 9 plus 4 is 13. So we put our 3, and we put the 1 above. Then we have to do 9 times 2, which is 18, plus the 1 is 19. So I put the 9, and then the 1 above. 9 times 3 now is 27. 27 plus 1 is 28. So we put our 8, and then our 2, and then we cross out the 9 because we're done with it. Let me bring those to the front. We cross off the 9. And since we crossed the 9 off, we got to stay in line with the place value. So we move to the tens place value, and we start with the 1. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 4 is 4. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. 1 times 3 is 3. And then we begin to add. 5 plus 0 is 5. 0 plus 5 is 5. 4 plus 3 is 7. 9 plus 1 is 10. And bring up the 1. 8 plus 1 is 9. 9 plus 2 is 11. And you're going to need more 1s, so I will have those for you. And then we have to do 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 3 is 6. So now what you have to do is count the numbers behind the decimal point. You got a 4 and a 5, so you got to move it twice. So that was 2 fingers you held up. Swoop once, swoop twice. So we have 6,107 and 55,000. 6107. Let me make sure. 610755. So looking at these two numbers, we have the multiplication problem, the larger one. So the alligator eats the larger number. Last one we have to solve is 4,962 divided by 2. So take our division and we put our dividend inside, which is 4 because it's the first number. It's the number we're breaking into groups. 4, 9, 6, 2, and the 2 on the outside. And now we have to ask ourselves, how many times can 2 go into 4? Which is 2 times. So you put your 2. 2 times 2 is 4. We'll subtract. Oops. We'll subtract and get 0. Bring down the 9. Then we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 9? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Well, 10 is too big, so I have to go one less, which is 4. 2 times 4 is 8, so I put my 8. And you will subtract. 9 minus 8 is 1. I'll get you more ones. Again, you will not have to worry about getting these. They will be there. 6 gets brought down. So I got to ask myself now, how many times does 2 go into 16? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. Well, perfect. That's 8. So I put my 8. And then I put my 16 below. And then I subtract. And get 0. Bring down the 2. And we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 2? That's 1 time. Which then we put our 2 below. Oops, oops. And when I subtract 2 minus 2, I get 0. So my answer is 2,481. So I'm going to put 2,481. And now I have to complete that multiplication problem. 2,481. Now I got to complete 40 times 0.8. Now the fun fact of when you have a decimal point and there's a 0 in front of it with no other number, all that's saying is 40 times 0.8. So we write it without the decimal point. So it's like 40 times 8. So we do 8 times 0 is 0. And then we do 8 times 4, which is 32. And we have an 8 behind the decimal point. That's 1 finger held up. So that's 1 swoop. So my answer is 32. So I put 32, put 32.0. And then we have to figure out which one's the larger. And the alligator is eating the division problem. And that is fluency for today. It's going to take you some time. However, We are all pros at fluency, all right?